Pokémon Gold and Silver added so much to the franchise that's very easy to see. New Pokémon, shinies, friendship, most of the good systems that were added are highly visible. But the Generation 2 video games also lost a fair bit of direction and tightness in the game design that's a lot harder to see, and I'm here to talk about that. Welcome y'all, I'm Mothy, Jimothy for long, and today I'm playing Pokémon Gen 2, Gold and Silver with a critical eye, especially looking to contrast them with the Generation 1 Pokémon games to answer the questions. What did Generation 2 do better? And what did it do worse? I'm playing this run in my games as intended format, where I do my best to expose all of the game's clever content, anything that feels like a wink from the developers on how they wanted us to beat their game. In simple terms, I tried to play games hyper-normally, completing all the quests, interacting with all of the gameplay systems, and trying to utilize all the tools we're given for their intended purposes. This will include things like catching a certain Pokemon right before a gym that it's super strong against, or using a specially crafted friend ball on a Pokemon who cares about the friendship mechanic. I feel like playing the game in this way is actually an excellent lens for retrospectives, especially for games with multiple sequels, like Pokemon does, letting me evaluate the later games against the predecessors. The exact nature of these as-intended runs changes per game, so for Pokemon Gold and Silver, I'm specifically including all the new gameplay systems. Gold and Silver added breeding, friendship, special Pokeballs, timed events, and 2 new types. For systems that existed before but sucked, like fishing and combat balance, we'll check whether those improved. Every NPC trade, completing them as early and as naturally as possible. I will also include a little tier list of trades at the end. Building a perfect team for the offline one-player campaign, including strategic coverage for each gym, the Elite Four, and HMs, while balancing my other goal of working in the new systems. And I'll answer the question whether Gold or Silver version is superior. Yes, the traditional advice is to play the one you want, or the one you just happen to receive as a gift, but I'm gonna dig deep to determine from a strategic perspective which of the games is better. This run will not include catching them all. It's not the series for that. In fact, I'm going to exclusively play with a team of Generation 2 Pokemon to help highlight the new content. It was physically painful to me not catching a Jinx even though I could have. The post-game, i.e. Kanto. Because the video would become untenably long, I'm calling it done when we reach credits and sectioning off the post-game, but nothing says I can't release a follow-up Kanto video if there's demand. And notably, Crystal. Like how I split up my Generation 1 videos, the third game changes too much to make a fair comparison, so I'm limiting discussion to Gold and Silver in this video. Let's get into the run. You'll want to begin the game on a Tuesday night around 9:30 p.m., giving yourself generously 2.5 hours to beat the first gym. When picking my starter, I look at the first gym or two and any early trainer battles. Well, because they gave Falkner a Mud Slap, neither Chikorita nor Cyndaquil is a safe choice defensively, leaving only Totodile as our starter. Welcome Baking Soda to the team. He is a water type, which does not have a whole ton of strong matchups in this game, but he will add some other important coverage to the team later via TMs. Importantly, steal his held berry so he doesn't eat it in combat. We want to collect those. Leave New Barktown to the west and collect a second berry from this tree. We're forced through a lot of grass at the start of the run, so I allow myself to fight a couple of these wild Pokemon as we handle our beginning errands, since I think that the devs generally expected us to fight wild Pokemon in this game. More about that later. This old man, he plays one, then he gives us a tour of Cherry Grove City and hands us a map card for the Poké Gear. But Cherry Grove then has nothing else for us, so exit north to Route 30, collecting a third berry from this tree and a fourth one as a gift from the man inside this house. We need to collect 7 berries by the mid-game, and it feels like they're coming fast, but we're trying our best to not need to backtrack for any later, and they do slow down. Mr. Pokemon tells us about an egg he found, and we're given a Pokédex by Professor Oak. Then Professor Elm calls us very upset, asking us to snap back to the lab again. But that's a trap. Our rival ambushes us for a fight, which is very easy to win since Baking Soda is level 7 to Chikorita's 5. This first rival fight is much easier than in Red-Blue since we're allowed to grind first, and because your Pokemon will have a held berry if you didn't steal yours. Our rival does tell us in no uncertain terms that his name is ... so we are lying to the police when we report his name as anything different. We're gonna beat up a few cops later too. Pokemon does not back the blue. Elm's 8 intercepts us on our way out to gift us 5 Pokeballs, which comes a lot easier than the obscure method of free ball acquisition from Generation 1. Kids these days have it so easy. Also, Elm tells us to speak to our mom, who wants to siphon our money, bleeding us dry like a gosh darn vampire. There is one material benefit to doing this. She can buy us a Moonstone to evolve Wigglytuff, Nidoking, or Nidoqueen before Victory Road. Her other purchases, though, are random and unhelpful. I don't need a Moonstone, but I said yes to her since it can protect our cache in case of a whiteout, and it's kind of content. With the ability to catch Pokemon now, grab a Hoot Hoot on Route Hoot 30, where they have the highest encounter rate and come at level 4. The downside of starting with Totodile is that Sprout Tower, full of Bellsprouts, is gonna kick our ass without an auxiliary catch like this. Welcome to the team, hee hee. This species is strictly worse than Pidgey and Spearow in terms of stats and offensive moves, but at least Hypnosis can help with catching other Pokemon. Perhaps they made an intentional nerf to the early game Flyer after how dominant the birds ended up being in Gen 1. And on that note, they did convert Gust to a flying move in Gen 2, so Pidgey is an actual flying type a lot sooner. Then right here is a weak reason to play Gold in the version-exclusive Bug Pokemon. Now, I'm not particularly trying to sell you on Spinarak, though it can learn Sludge Bomb and become somewhat dangerous later. What I am doing is telling you that Leddyba is unapologetic dog water, with typing that encourages physical attacks, but a super low attack stat. We also need to catch a Bellsprout on Route 31 as trade fodder. Trade it immediately upon reaching Violet City for Rocky, an Onix who came with a free Bitterberry. Rocky could have been the Falkner counter that none of the starter Pokemon quite is, except that Mudslap harms him as well, and he doesn't even learn Rock Throw to counter them until level 14. This trade does not seem well thought out, since traded Pokemon over level 10 will disobey battle orders until getting our second badge. Before that gym, we have Sprout Tower. It's basically a sanctioned grinding area. The Vine Whipping Bellsprouts do mess up Baking Soda, but if you allow him to handle some of the level 3 Bellsprouts near the beginning, as well as the 2 opponent Hoot Hoots who come later, we can conserve Heehee's Tackle PP to barely last us the whole tower without needing to leave to refresh that. You will still want a couple of potions though. Beat Sage Lee at the top to get the Flash HM, which we toss on Heehee, then use the provided escape rope to escape. Now we're ready to take on Violet City's Flying-type gym. We've got to beat this before midnight. The subordinate trainers have a Spearow and some Pidgeys that I split between the team. Then I decided to just spend 1 potion and take on Falkner with a slightly wounded team since our levels were already above his just from fighting the trainers heretofore. I led with a very wounded Baking Soda to build up a rage against Falkner's Pidgey, but I only got 1 nice rage hit on his Pidgeotto since it created a gust against me. He barely manages to survive and clean up with 3 hit points to earn our first Johto League badge. Winning gets us the Mudslap TM, which I never really found a use for on this run, and we can now use Flash to light up caves. Professor Elm calls us again, directing us to pick up the Pokemon Egg from his aide in the local Poké Center, and it's now ours to raise if we want to. Now, I had said to beat Falkner before midnight. That's because if you go back to Route 29 now, there's a weekday sibling here, Tuscany for Tuesday, and she gifts a pink bow. There's a sibling for each day of the week who only give you a gift on their specific day, spread throughout Johto, but we had to get the Zephyr badge before they show up. Getting this early boost to normal moves can be a huge boon. Then, go enjoy a Coca-Cola while you wait for it to cross midnight, because that triggers the berry trees to regenerate. Once it becomes Wednesday, revisit the trees on Route 29 and Route 30. Come break me down. Bury me. Bury me. Whew. Hi folks, Mothy here. I apologize for that terrible music reference. If you can please forgive me, would you like this video or consider subscribing to my channel? I'm doing my absolute best to grow on YouTube, and your support really helps me out with that. I'm actually closing in on 25,000 subs as I write this script, and hopefully I'll cross that by the time this video goes out, and I'm really grateful for all the support so far. I'm touched that y'all enjoy my videos, and I love making them for you. Thanks so much. Let's continue. Buy a couple of potions in Violet City to smooth out exploration, and a handful more Pokeballs. We're headed to the ruins of Alf, south of town. Yes, these play a much bigger role in Crystal version, but if we weren't supposed to visit them now, they should not exist. Complete the Kabuto block puzzle to fall through the floor, where a few varieties of unknown can now be caught. Catch 3 different letters, and the scientist on our way out is excited about our discovery. He upgrades our Pokédex to have an unknown directory. That's it. That's all we get. Moving on. On Route 32 now, this bastard who prevented us from catching Mareep before Falkner gifts us the Miracle Seed, the grass move boosting held item which is carefully placed for anyone raising a Bellsprout or Chikorita. Wooper and Mareep show up in the grass here. They're both strong, long-term options for the team. Now, I passed on Wooper because it's got a lot of overlap with Baking Soda. But Mareep would have been an excellent team member if I was just building for strength and coverage, but it just doesn't fit with all the other mechanics that I'm trying to squeeze into the team. Plus, while good, Electric type does not dominate in Gen 2 the way that it did in Gen 1. There's just no Thunderbolt TM and fewer targets for it. Most of Route 32 is type neutral for my little team of partners. Give Heehee a little bit more of the work here because Baking Soda is going to be busier in the coming cave. Now, one of the few times I'll call out a normal trainer battle is Fisher Henry right here. His two Poliwags can be a huge issue because they're very fast and like to hypnotize you. Baking Soda resists their bubbles, but this could wreck a Cyndaquil starter team. And random note, Leer makes a nice little sound effect in Generation 2. It's no longer the flashbang grenade that it was. We collect the Old Rod from a man in the Poke Center here. Fishing is greatly improved in Gold and Silver. Not only are the rods spread out better, with Good Rod coming sooner and a meaningful gap between Good and Super Rods, but the Old Rod is not worthless. Most areas still have a majority of Magikarps, yes, but also a smaller chance to hook a second species like Krabby, Goldeen, or Poliwag. Union Cave has a lot of work for Baking Soda to do between rock types and a Vulpix. Then we did get our second Great Ball of the game in here. These come insanely early in Gold Silver, and I can't really figure out why they felt the need to accelerate that. Through now to Azalea Town, we can finally purchase Repels. I found Gold and Silver to involve a lot more walking in wild encounter areas due to revisiting areas a lot of times, which usually involves surfing, ducking through a cave, or just little bitchy grass patches blocking the only footpath. It feels pretty bad to blow a Repel to cross 10 tiles of water or grass, so you do end up with a lot more wild Pokemon in your face here than in Generation 1, and you may as well fight them since this team is much hungrier for XP than our trade-heavy Gen 1 team was. Speak to Kurt now, who rushes off to the Slowpoke well, where we've got to go beat the smoldering Team Rocket. With only 2 Pokemon on the team, we still have mostly neutral matchups against the 4 Rocket trainers down here, but I chose to let Baking Soda pull slightly ahead because Hee will be busy in the coming gym. For saving Kurt, he gives us the Lure Ball, stash this for later, and he can now craft 1 special Pokeball per day out of an Apricorn. Of the 7 varieties of Special Pokeball, 3 are completely broken and may as well just be Pokeballs. 1 is the Lure Ball, and the remaining 3 have very specific use cases that we are going to make use of. Then, head into Bugsy's gym. For being the second gym, this one is rather busy with subordinate trainers. For either non-Cyndaquil starter, you really do want a flyer on your team for coverage here. Hee does good work for us with Peck. Be aware of this bug catcher toward the back who is rocking a Beedrill. Then, the leader Bugsy just has a Metapod, lol, a Kakuna, lol, and a Scyther. Hee pecks away at the first Metapod quite easily. Then, even at 2x, Hee does take several turns to peck down the Scyther, so it's fortunate that we also resist his Fury Cutter. I did pass the Kakuna off to Baking Soda because Water Gun easily bypasses Harden, and with that we've earned our second gym badge, making it actually viable to utilize trade Pokemon. Our rival, Algo, stops us for a second fight on our way out of town. He's caught a Ghastly, which Baking Soda defeats in 2 Water Guns to ding level 18. His Bayleaf is very sturdy, taking many pecks from Hee to defeat. Then his Zubat takes down a paralyzed and confused Baking Soda, so Hee has to come finish the fight. And that got Baking Soda to evolve. And that was a very busy first day. Technically 2 days. You've been hard at work, so take a break, and I'll see you late tonight. Shh. Wake up, gamer. We have Pokemon to play. Enter Ilex Forest and rescue the Charcoal Apprentices Farfetch'd. My Togepi hatched on the step that I got back to the Charcoal Cutters, which was kinda cool, but we're just gonna deposit Togepi in computer jail. It just has awful stats, though it can learn Fly later, and with most of the Gen 2 Fly options being awful, it actually was sadly in the running for a while. The Charcoal Cutter gifts us HM Cut, but return to Azalea quick before proceeding, and the Apprentice gifts us Charcoal, the Fire move held item. Toss Cut on Baking Soda. There's a lot less reliance on Cut in Generation 2, but it's convenient to keep HMs on the party with you, which was one big reason that we ultimately went with Totodile over Wooper for Water type. Headbutting Guy gives us the Headbutt TM, which we're going to want, but quite a bit later. The trainers on Route 34 end up being extremely easy, having only leveled 2 Pokemon so far. In hindsight, it would have been fine to bring a Mareep along, even on a temporary basis, but the team does get several new members soon, and I was trying to avoid filling the party too quickly. By the way, the only reason we're running this section at night is to battle this police officer here, who only fights you in the darkness. Then dig around the grass here for a level 12 Drowsy to catch as trade fodder. This was a surprisingly rough catch, even asleep and low HP, so I made use of those weirdly early Great Balls on this Drowsy. This grass also contains Dittos, carefully placed by the daycare for breeding, but this is almost too heavy-handed. I kind of don't like it. We are going to care quite a lot about the daycare on this run, but for right now, just grab the hidden Super Potion in their yard, then get fishing in their little pond. The Old Rod has a chance to hook Krabbies here, which we use Kurt's Lure Ball on for a massive increase to catch rate. Grab one as trade fodder. Then enter Goldenrod City proper and head to the department store. There's a TM seller here offering Ice, Thunder, and Fire Punches. These TMs are quite powerful early in the game. Fire and Thunder Punch could have both gone onto a Floffy, but Ice Punch can go on Baking Soda, adding strong flying coverage to the team. Then, a man will trade his Machop for our Drowsy. Go for it. This fighting type is carefully placed to attack the normal type gym leader of Goldenrod. It's even female, which means her Miltank's attracts cannot affect it. Welcome to the Team Muscle. She comes with the best held item of any trade too, a gold berry. On top of the department store, load up on fresh waters, just like we did in Red Blue. It's still the most money-efficient healing in the game. Then keep revisiting the basement and new loot becomes available each time. On the second visit, we get an Ultra Ball, insanely early for that, and on the third visit, we collect some more junk. Then visit the Goldenrod Underground, which has a handful of trainers in it that make excellent practice for muscle, notably a Lickitung and several Magnemites. Also, collect the coin case down here. The Game Corner is bad in Gen 2, offering only 3 Pokemon, Abra, Ekans/Sandshrew, and Dratini, none of whom are from the new generation, but I still constructed a use for it. That's a bit later though. Enter the bike store for a free bicycle. Being able to register the bike to the select button makes it much more usable in Generation 2. And there's something else that I have not pointed out yet. Gen 2 is much stickier in the movement. There's a pretty significant delay between pressing a D-pad button and your character beginning to move in that direction. It makes it easier to change direction without taking a step, but it makes movement in Gen 2 feel a lot worse. How does that relate to the bike? Well, in Gen 1, the walking was smooth, but the bike felt kind of sticky to me. So I guess what I'm saying is, compared to Gen 1, where the bike was a decrease in quality of life, the bike is less awful to use in Gen 2 because the walking feels pretty bad to begin with. Okay, let's fight Whitney. 4 subordinate trainers in Goldenrod Gym is, again, quite a lot, and Muscle can demolish them all very effectively with Karate Chops, another move that was fixed from Generation 1, converted from normal type to fighting now. Once Muscle dinged level 18, I did give some of the workload to Hee because, surprise, Muscle is only temporary. Hired Muscle, if you will. The Muscle Tech was beautiful against Whitney herself, though I did have to reattempt because RNG, especially with the Clefairy, is a big factor in this fight. Her Clefairy metronomed Dragon Rage on me, and one time landed a 5-hit double slap combo with 2 crits to almost kill me. Against her Miltank, legendary for its difficulty, Muscle just keeps on chopping while she used Rollout, which is thankfully ineffective against fighting type. Miltank was a lot easier than the darn Clefairy thanks to Muscle. Winning here gets us the Plain Badge and the ability to use Strength outside of combat. Muscle was level 20 after this gym. We thank her for her time and send her to computer jail, though I will admit, for pure strength reasons, Machoke would have been pretty helpful on the team throughout the late game. It should be soon after midnight on Thursday morning by now, meaning the bug contest is now happening. So head that way up Route 35, taking care of some more trainers, including one more nighttime-only police officer fight. I had Hee evolve into Noctowl on this stretch, improving its stats a little, but still being confined to only Peck on offense is becoming more and more of a liability. Let's breathe some new life into the stagnant team. Enter the bug catching contest and search out a male in the Weedle family. The perfect catch is a level 15 male Beedrill, but I could not for the life of me encounter a Beedrill that was male, so I settled for a level 18 male Kakuna, which ended up being a huge mistake since it only knows Harden even after you evolve it. But I digress. We don't need to win the contest, only to acquire a B. Welcome Breedrill to the team. Then take a little break because we need to be up in the morning. After the contest, re-enter the park, and I used the trainers around here to leech some levels for Breedrill. I taught him Fury Cutter from Bugsy's reward once he evolved at 19, then felt stupid because when he turned level 20, he learned Twin Needle anyway. So it goes. TM28 Dig is available in here, carefully placed to help out with much of the mid-game, but we don't yet have a user for it. Then, we still have more to do back in Goldenrod. Visit the radio station and win their quiz, answering yes, yes, no, for a radio card. We like this because Station 7.5 reduces wild Pokemon encounters by half with a lullaby on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. This is a godsend in a game with so much walking in wild encounter areas, and you may see me turn this station on a couple times. Enter the Game Corner. This place is very disappointing compared to Celadon's Game Corner from Red and Blue. There are no Generation 2 Pokemon available at the prize counter, nor even our dear Porygon. Only Abra for 200, Ekans in Gold or Sandshrew in Silver for 700, and Dratini for 2100. Unfortunately, we very much want a Dratini, so get to gambling. There's one slot machine that's luckier than the rest, and it's only available during the morning, which is why we got here so early. Buy some initial coins, then slam that machine until it gets you over 2100 coins and save your game. We need to make sure that our redemption pops out a female Dratini. If you get a male, reload your game. That was an awful lot of work just to get a Pokemon that we toss in daycare and forget about. We just need to ripen up a Dragonair for trade much later. Visit the flower shop having beaten Whitney for the squirt bottle. Then on your way out of town, speak to this guard. He lends us a Spearow named Kenya with a quest to deliver that Pokemon to his friend on Route 31. There are 2 of these temporary lent Pokemon in this game. Nothing stops you from keeping them, but there is content for giving them back, so I do recommend being ethical. Then squirt on and catch the Sudowoodo blocking the path north of town. Welcome Canyonero to the team. Sudowoodo is the series' first plain Rock-type Pokemon. It comes with Low Kick and Rock Throw and receives our Dig TM. This triple coverage just handles so many situations while having a strong attack stat. Canyonero was like the one definite fixed point in every possible team permutation I cooked up for this run. Then with this travel nexus unblocked, a man on the far side thanks us with the Rock Smash TM, which is carefully placed as we'll soon see. Weekday sibling Arthur is here because it's Thursday, gifting us the Hard Stone to power up rock moves. Deliver Kenya to the friend here for a Junk TM. Then while we're here, dip back to the berry trees on Route 30 for our 7th berry. With the Chaos Berries all obtained, feel free to actually make use of any that you obtain after the 7th. And while here, head into Dark Cave. Hee flashes light, and Canyonero can use that Rock Smash TM we just got to access a side area of Route 46. There are 3 trainers here who, by their levels, only make sense to visit right now in the playthrough. Then take a rest until Friday. Time of day doesn't matter, but it's another busy day, so I gave us Friday evening to game. We parked our game over here on purpose to more easily go meet Frida on Route 32 for Friday's gift, the Poison Barb, then continue north past Sudowoodo's location to Route 37. Trees here drop 2 of the Apricorn varieties that we're interested in on this run, Black and Red. The Black Apricorn turns into the Heavy Ball, which improves catch rate against heavy Pokemon. It adds a flat amount to the catch rate rather than a multiplier, meaning that it has a better effect the harder a Pokemon is to catch. There's only 2 Pokemon that can be caught in this game, heavy enough to benefit from using the Heavy Ball. Against Lugia, it's a huge boost over Ultra Ball. The only other Pokemon is Mantine, a gold version exclusive, against which it's slightly worse than Ultra Ball actually, but still much better than a Great Ball. And the Red Apricorn turns into a Level Ball, which doubles your catch rate if your Pokemon is higher level than the target, and quadruples your catch rate if your level is more than double the target's. Then finally reach Ecruteak City. Meet Bill in the Poké Center, who has enabled time machine trading with Generation 1 cartridges. After this, if you visit his mother's house in Goldenrod, Bill gifts you an Eevee, which is our only chance to raise a Dark-type Pokemon before the post-game. This run was very close to running Umbreon just so we could play with the Dark-type, and mostly didn't because that took away a chance to showcase one of the special Pokeballs. Enter the dance studio to beat up 5 Kimono girls who each use one of the Eeveelutions. Baking Soda easily handles Flareon, Breedrill is super effective for Espeon and Umbreon, and neutral for Vaporeon, then Canyonero digs Jolteon. Our new Pokemon are already looking pretty good. For beating all 5, we get the Surf HM, not for use out of combat yet, but still a strong attack to toss on Baking Soda. Then, stop everything. Morty's gym would be the next challenge, but we are actually somewhat handcuffed by the overnight nature of Kurt's ball creation, so we need to get him started on one today. Walk all the way down through Violet City and Union Cave, taking advantage of the Radio Lullaby to reduce wild encounters, and drop off the Black Apricorn with Kurt to get our Heavy Ball cooking. Complete the loop up through Goldenrod, waving hello to our Dratini. This is a natural time to pick up Eevee if you want it on your team. I just put mine in computer jail. Okay, so we could take on Morty now. Canyonero's Dig is a good counter against the Poison Ghosts, and Baking Soda's Bite could supplement. But there's a straight-up weapon available to bring here if we do a little light nonsense first. Gold and Silver versions actually treat us like adults, and the game is wide open at this point. We're going to head east on Route 42 to Mahogany Town, then north on Route 43. There are a few fights in the way, but we're hunting for a Girafarig in the grass. Welcome to the team, Timantha. Girafarig is a psychic normal dual type with pretty high stats in all categories. That means it resists psychic attacks and can counter with highly damaging same type normal moves. This is the psychic killer Gen 1 sorely lacked. But also, Timantha is immune to ghost attacks and knows Confusion to capitalize on their poison type. So bring her back to Ecruteak, where she makes a show of dismantling Morty's entire gym. While Confusion's low base power is not enough to one-shot from full, ghosts usually curse to see themselves out once they witness the beatdown coming for them, and Confusion then becomes an effective one-shot. Tamantha makes it from level 15 to 19 in Morty's gym before reaching Morty's final scary Gengar. Unfortunately, this one doesn't curse itself out, but lands a hypnosis lock for like 7 straight turns as I succumb to Dream Eaters. But Canyonero and Baking Soda step in to support the homie and close out the fight for our 4th gym badge and permission to surf in the overworld. We also get the Shadow Ball TM, which I slap on Tamantha, giving her an actual hard counter for Psychic Pokemon. Enter the Burnt Tower post Mortium for our 3rd rival fight of the game. His Ghastly has become a Haunter, which is perfect food for our growing girl Tamantha. He's got a new Magnemite to show off the Steel type, which Canyonero can dig for a 4x weakness. For his Bayleaf, we now have Breedrill to punish more effectively than he was, and for his Zubat, I just pass things back to Tim. While I fight the 2 trainers in here and then Baja Minute, let's talk about breeding. I couldn't make a Generation 2 video discussing game mechanics without finding a good reason to breed a Pokemon. Several Pokemon can breed into baby versions, a subset of which evolve via friendship, which could have been a nice 2-for-1 on mechanic explorations, except then I would be stuck with a Generation 1 Pokemon after it evolved. The other reason to breed is to pass on egg moves. If the father knows a certain move designated as an egg move, it can be passed down to a Pokemon of the mother's species. The baby will be born knowing that move. There's no one single broken egg move that can be passed down. Magmar, encountered here, has one interesting option though. He can learn Karate Chop from a Machop father and has good enough attack stat to employ it well. Ancient Power is another compelling move. It's a rock-type move that can be learned by a level 43 Corsola, which is a stretch and might take some grinding, but then passed to a better Pokemon, such as Wooper, Swinub, or Silver-exclusive Fanpy. A fraction of a point goes to Silver version if you want to breed an Ancient Power Ring Fanpy. But that's offset with a point for Gold because you can breed the Dragon-type move Twister from a Gyarados or Dratini father onto a Mantine. This is terrible, yes, but long story short, it solves a problem later. The reason to breed that I ultimately landed on was that Forretress is a strong defensive counter to many tough Pokemon, but it naturally lacks a compelling attack move. One way we can fix that is by raising our Breedrill, hence the name, to level 35 in order to learn and pass down Pin Missile to a Pineco. So yeah, not doing Magmar, but it was a strong 2nd place. Let's use our new ability to surf on Route 42 to collect a green Apricorn. This one makes a Friend Ball, which has no special catch rate modifier, but starts out the friendship level of a captured Pokemon at 200 out of 255 max. There's a single catchable Pokemon who cares about friendship for evolution purposes. Can you name it? Then it's our 2nd early visit to Route 43 and the Lake of Rage, but this time we'll actually handle some business. The red Gyarados here demonstrates shiny Pokemon, which were introduced in Gen 2, so I don't have to. He's a great HM whore, but we can get a Gen 2 HM whore later instead, so just kill him. He only seems to thrash, so Canyonero is actually a strong counter with Rock Throw. For defeating red Gyarados, we collect a red Scale, which is a major reason why we wanted to come here early. Meet Lance to advance the Team Rocket plot, then head through the tree maze to the far northwest corner where a man in a house gifts us TM10 Hidden Power. Gen 2 started adding more hidden IV-related mechanics in the games, and I was never a big fan of this, mostly because I didn't understand it, but it also felt like something that's nonsense if you're playing casually that you kind of need to go outside the game and use internet calculators to do anything with. But I got to evolve with the times, so we are going to make use of this TM later. Let's real quick take on the Rocket Hideout in Mahogany Town before leaving. Tamantha and Canyonero end up getting very overused here against a host of Poison, Normal, and Electric type opponents. It's okay for Canyonero to pull away from the party a little here since she actually won't get much play for a while afterward. I even put her in a silly Ditto fight that ended in 2 trees kicking each other. There are 3 fights in this dungeon against Rocket Executives. I really enjoy that they added this elite level of Rocket trainers in Gen 2, both for flavor and to allow more diversity and challenge in their Pokemon types. They also added females at the grunt level who tend to have a different set of Pokemon than the boys, which was an excellent play too, for turning the Rocket Monotony into Mono Antonia. Let 3 Electrodes kill themselves against Canyonero, then receive the Whirlpool HM from Lance for saving the city. But the real prize is we can now visit the guardhouse north of town and receive a Sludge Bomb TM from the guard. Breedrill makes very good use of this move with the same type bonus and a decent attack stat. Breedrill got a huge usability boost in Generation 2, which has a fraction of the flying and psychic components that Gen 1 had. Buffing weak Pokemon, not just with changes to moves and stats, but with changes to the trainer battle ecosystem is one genius move that I do really appreciate Gold and Silver for. And with that, we're finally done with that long day of gaming. Past time until... With Mahogany done for now, walk back down to Violet City, then east to Mr. Pokemon's house. He's a collector, and he'll give us an XP share for the red scale. Stick this on Breedrill now. The sooner we can boost him to 35, the less grinding is required in the late game, so we'll give him a cut of every battle going forward. And unfortunately, we've got to force another trip to Azalea and Kurt based on ball timing. Collect the heavy ball from Kurt now, and leave him with the green apricorn before walking back up to Ecruteak. It is finally time to make actual progress again. Head west on routes 37 and 38. These routes have a ton of strong normal-type Pokemon, including Miltank, Snubbull, and Tauros. I wonder if there's a thematic or design reason to cluster those all right here. Let me know if you have a theory. Moo Moo Farms is at the bend in the road, and it's for this sick Miltank that we collected those 7 berries. Feed it one after another until it heals up. Our prize for curing the sick is the Snortium, which, ew, and the chance to buy Moo Moo milk, which is worse than fresh water. We'd rather have kept the berries. Pokefan Derek on Route 38 gives us a pretty good cash prize after we beat him in battle. There are many trainers throughout the game with whom you can trade phone numbers after the battle. Several of them alert to swarm encounters, but many, like Derek, just give nice cash rewards, so it's worth challenging them to a rematch if you can be bothered to return here on Derek's schedule. Upon reaching Olivine City, we get jump scared by our rival who does not want to fight and is just mad that Jasmine is not here. Side note, the rival in Gen 1 was an older brother style of jerk who grew to respect us through the game, but the rival in Gen 2 is a criminal and an asshole. Gold Silver definitely did a worse job on its rival writing. Next, pick up the Good Rod. Because of who I wanted on my party, I actually didn't need this, but it comes at a fair pace in a thematically appropriate port town, and it allows some new catches like Corsola and Chinchou. They did a much better job designing fishing in Gen 2 than in 1. And speaking of fishing, remember that Krabby we nicked from the daycare pond a long time ago? Someone in town will trade their Voltorb for it. Trade Krabby for a Volty, who comes with a disappointing Paralyzed Cure Berry. We are about to face a lot of water Pokemon, but Volty comes with no electric moves and can't even learn any without a TM unless we gamble for hours to afford Thunder at the game corner. Also, notice how all of the trades have been Generation 1 Pokemon so far? Yeah, every single trade in Gold Silver is for Generation 1 Pokemon. I know it's a common complaint about Gen 2 that it puts too much emphasis on the Gen 1 Pokemon, but I only truly felt upset about this in regards to the in-game trades. It just makes them less interesting, which is about the worst thing they could have done, so I consider this a design flaw for sure. Well, meet the sailor in this cafe for the strength HM anyway. I tossed this on Tamantha because it gets the same type bonus. At this point, go enjoy your weekend. We want to play on Monday, but there's one little event to hit on Sunday, so pick your game back up at. Bike to Route 37 and collect the magnet from Sunny on Sunday. That's it. Now go back to where we were in Olivine. Get surfing and skip past Route 40 to Route 41 around the Whirl Islands, and definitely save your game. We're hunting for a Mantine, a gold version exclusive with a 10% encounter rate while surfing here. Lower its hit points, sleep it with Hee-Hee, and try to catch it with Heavy Ball, using Ultras and Greats as backup since it's a tough catch, but don't welcome it to the team yet. The need is for a Whirlpool Waterfall HM Whore, and the want is for some water coverage that will help us in the coming zones. Mantine does not learn any water coverage though, except that hidden power TM we received back at the Lake of Rage can be of any type, and a range of power levels based on your Pokemon's invisible innate values. So, catch a Mantine, teach it hidden power, then fish up a Magikarp to check whether we're super effective. If not, reload the game and catch a different Mantine. If it does take super effective damage from hidden power, it could either be grass or electric type, so test against a Tentacool thereafter to determine which. Super effective against Tentacool means it's electric, neutral means grass. Either type is fine for our hidden power, but grass is better in theory because our Mantine will actually gain an ice move to handle flying later, which is redundant with electric. It only took me 4 tries to end up with a Mantine with a grass type hidden power, whose base power felt to be approximately 55 or 60 based on comparing to my other moves. Welcome to the team, Saltine. He fills out our roster. Teach him Whirlpool, and he may as well be our headbutt user for now too, since Whirlpool is not a real attack. Realistically, if you're not trying to maximize content for a silly video, just use your Good Rod and fish up a Chinchou in the Olivine Harbor. It's a great HM Whore, and it learns Spark to cover water types. But getting to utilize Heavy Ball and catch a version exclusive and cheese a perfect use of hidden power was just too cute not to utilize for this run for me. Our next step is to head up the Olivine Lighthouse. Thanks to Grass Hidden Power, Saltine fights well against fighting, fire, rock, ground, and water types, which there's a lot of here, so he's getting up to speed quickly. His high special defense makes him surprisingly decent in a fight, despite weaker attacks. Meet Jasmine at the top of the lighthouse, who asks us to grab a medicine for the sick Ampharos across the ocean. Then we're weirdly permitted to dig out of here. Having crossed midnight into Monday by now, Monica is on the beach at Route 40 to give us the sharp beak. Now Hee can be slightly better at still using Peck, oh boy. Let's do routes 40 and 41 for real now. It's these trainers why we bothered forcing a grass hidden power move on Saltine. This is the one spot in the game with a homogeneous set of trainer types, and Saltine is one-shotting most of the junky opponents and two-shotting the more serious ones like Starmies. Upon reaching Cyanwood, you can break some of the rocks for hidden items underneath. This dork got bullied by our rival into giving up all of his Pokemon except Shucky the Shuckle. He wants us to guard it for him, and I'm happy to. It comes with a free berry that I steal before throwing this thing in computer jail. Then I'm pretty eager for Fly on the team, so hop into Chuck's fighting gym. Our team is set up quite well in here. Hee should be valuable here, but Peck just isn't winning fights, so Tamantha handles most of the trash. Breedrill is goated here with 4x resistance to fighting moves. In fact, against Chuck, Breedrill just sludge bombs his Primeape twice, then his Poliwrath thrice to win uncontested. Poliwrath has the scary move Dynamic Punch, but B's crazy resistant neuters that better than anyone else. After winning, speak to Chuck's wife outside to get the Fly HM, which we toss straight on Hee, replacing Peck. Don't forget to grab the secret potion from Elton John in his little shack. Amphi will be fine for a while though. We still have some major errands to tackle now that Fly really opens up the sequencing. First, fly to Cherry Grove City and surf for mystic water from this island man. Then fly to Azalea and retrieve the friend ball from Kurt, leaving him with the red apricorn. Let's go ahead and use that friend ball while we're here. Revisit the Slowpoke well using strength to enter the basement and run around in this little square to find and capture a level 23 Zubat with the friend ball. Welcome to the team Calamite. Zubat evolves into a Golbat at level 22, then into a Crobat upon level up if its friendship is over 220, and the friend ball gives a massive head start to that. Crobat has a decent stat line, but it gets no same type bonus for its bite move, and it can't learn Sludge Bomb, or any poison move, to benefit from its good attack stat. It can fly though once evolved, so replace Hee with our new Zubat. We'll be on foot for a bit though before it evolves. We do want to hang around to get that final ball from Kurt tomorrow, so just go to sleep here. We're on to week 2 now. Retrieve the level ball from Kurt, and we're done with his services. We're on foot once more through the Ilex Forest, but this time we actually want to be. Headbutt trees till encountering a female Pineco, which our level ball has a 4x catch rate against, since all our team is at least level 21. The level ball does not benefit from the target being wounded or statused, which I've seen called a glitch, but I consider a feature because it's going to be harder to gently wear down a Pokemon who's at a lower level than you, so just chuck the ball from the start to catch Cone Mom. Through to the daycare, drop off Cone Mom. The dad is going to be Breedrill, who is level 33 by now thanks to XP share, perfectly in range for our 2 stored rare candies to boost him to 35 first to learn Pin Missile. Dropping him off means Dratini is on the party temporarily, so she may as well hold the XP share now. Because we're in Goldenrod, we can also get a haircut for Calamite to help her friendship. See how clean this route is? I worked so hard on this for real. Well, we're actually not that far from the end of the game now, so we do kind of need that egg, now. There's a 4% chance that an egg gets laid every 256 steps you take, meaning there's a 50% chance an egg has happened after 4,300 steps, and a 75% chance that an egg has occurred after 8,700 steps. So it's honestly okay that we don't have Fly. Let's hoof it back to Olivine, make the trek back and up the lighthouse to deliver the medicine to Jasmine. She has Ampharos take a sip from a secret potion, 1 taste and you'll be mine. It lets out a hearty Palulu, and then we're free to go fight Jasmine in her gym. She has 0 subordinate trainers, it's just Jasmine in here, demonstrating the new Steel type. Magnemite really wants you to have a ground type on the team at 4x effectiveness, and we offer her a digging Canyonero in these trying times. She goes with Steelix next, so I pull out Canyonero to clear her confusion and put in Saltine, whose Bubble Beam should hurt Steelix's ground type, except he uses Sunny Day defensively, which is honestly pretty smart, so I settle for some grass powers. He rock throws Saltine down, but Baking Soda's got his 45 on, so he can rock on. He just keeps on surfing while Jasmine heals up and reapplies Sunny Day. Then it's back to Magnemite. Canyonero's tired of digging.
That's too damn bad! You keep digging!
For winning, we get the high damage but low accuracy Steel TM Iron Tail. Steel is a pretty sad type offensively, but it does punish ice. Pretty convenient, seeing as how the next gym is ice themed. Toss it on baking soda to give him coverage for that. With that done, we have no more excuses to walk anywhere, so just return to Goldenrod and bike up and down over and over until the love bugs pop out an egg. And bazinga! This actually didn't take me too long, but I wasn't keeping track. Shuffle the parents into computer jail, Dratini back into daycare, and the new egg on the team. I'd like it to hatch before the Mahogany Gym, since that's a lot of XP that it could share, but I don't mind bringing it on some Lake of Rage content. We're still on foot until Calamite evolves twice, which isn't so bad with an egg to incubate. Grab another haircut for Calamite before leaving Goldenrod. I also brought her a single protein at the department store because feeding vitamins is another way to increase happiness. Walk up to Ekrutik and buy several Pokeballs. I bought 4 because I save scummed my fishing, but you may want like 12. With Team Rocket gone from the lake, there are many new trainer fights here now. I swapped Calamite into some of the fights to help her level, and she evolved off of a Ninetales. Tackle those trainers, then visit the fishing guru here. He does not give us a rod, but instead asks to see the biggest, thickest Magikarp of all time. I think this is just based on IVs, not level or anything, so just catch several random Magikarps and have the guru check them. I ended up failing with a 3-foot 4-inch Magikarp and succeeding with a 3-foot 7-inch Magikarp, so I don't know if 3-foot 5 or 3-foot 6 carps count as a win. Our prize for half an hour wasted and $800 in Pokeballs is an ether. But hey, we completed some lesser known content for the bit. You're welcome. Head up to the extreme northwest corner again for the most hidden weekday sibling. Wesley gives us the black belt, which boosts fighting moves. I let Calamite tackle some wild giraffes in the grass since her bite is super effective, and I was surprised that her very next level up was enough to evolve into Crobat. Friend Ball really is the way to go if you want a Crobat. You could have raised a Zubat from the start of the game, but that's just not a strong asset until it learns a wing attack. Which ours never did, mind you, because we can teach her fly upon evolution. I love that they got a little more adventurous with who can fly in Generation 2. Flying with this cute little bat sprite instead of a bird is rather fun. And today, my egg hatched. Welcome to the team, Knife. She knows Pin Missile as an egg move, a pretty strong bug move with same type bonus, but she's only level 5, so give her the XP share and hit Pryce's gym. Ice had the bad issue in Gen 1 of always being mixed with another type. 3 of the 5 were Ice Water, and not even Ice until they evolved. Generation 2 did not fix this, but at least Swinub is Ice type before it evolves. We have 2 bits of tech for this gym. Grass Power Saltine handles all the Ice/Water types, walling their attacks and countering for double. Then for Jinx and the Swinubs, Baking Soda's Iron Tail works wonders. Pryce himself starts out with a level 27 Seal. Salt grasses it, while his Icy Winds do 5 damage to me. Salt stays in for Dugong. It's a very similar fight, but thanks to it resting, I need a few more turns of using Grass Power. Then Baking Soda comes in for his Piloswine. Pylo has good defenses, so it does take 2 tails, and this is not an accurate move, so it actually takes me several more turns, but the tech checks out and I steal the victory. Whirlpool is usable after winning, and we get the Icy Wind TM. This is laughably weak, coming so late in a game where we got Ice Punch before the 3rd gym. And yet, I'm that desperate for more ice on the team that I teach it to Saltine right away. Back outside, Elm calls us all worried about Team Rocket taking over the Goldenrod radio tower. Alright, we'll fly to Goldenrod, but first, walk south and surf on Route 34. There are 3 trainers at an appropriate level for this exact moment in the game. They have a bunch of water Pokemon that Saltine continues to harm, and they gift you the ground-type held item Soft Sand for winning. Canyonero does not mind holding this for better digs. Speaking of, she has a ton of work to do in the radio tower. I make the mistake a few times also of putting in Tamantha against Arbok, whose bite does really mess her up as a psychic type. Calamite helps a little on the rats in here, but with just Fly to go on, she doesn't have many super effective matchups. And this one scientist does have a Porygon. Legend. Canyon tanks this one well. Reach the top floor hoping to rescue the director, but this guy pulled a Dio and it's actually a rocket executive. He has 5 coughings and a wheezing, most of which can explode, so be careful. Dig and Confusion win the fight for me. Then it's on to the underground warehouse, which begins with a rival fight. He first puts out Golbat, which Baking Soda handles with Ice Punch. He goes to counter us then with Magnemite, which Canyonero digs. Calamite tries to handle his Meganium, but Reflect ruins my damage, and I lose the matchup that I should have been strong for. This kind of puts me off of Calamite for the rest of the run. It's just not a good Pokemon. Saltine has to take me home with Icy Winds instead. Haunter gets eaten by Tamantha, and against his new Sneasel, I debuted Knife in combat now since Bug is good against Dark, and she manages to get there with Pin Missile. I'm very proud of bringing Knife to a gunfight. Now, the rest of the dungeon. I, an adult male, struggle hard overthinking the shutter puzzle, so I actually have to search up the answer, which is just 3, 2, 1, and fight my way into the true director who gives me the card key. Then upstairs, collect the amulet coin, which economic-minded me would love to run, but my careful acquisition of all the type-boosting held items actually hasn't left anyone's hands free to stack paper. Heal up, then re-enter the radio tower and open the shutter on floor 3. Canyonero has Rock Slide by now to trash some enemy Golbats. There are several more executives to fight here. One female exec with Arbok, Murkrow, and Vileplume puts up a good fight, but the final exec is brutal and close to a gym leader in strength, so save before. Saltine can handle his Houndour, though it's a shame he doesn't have Waterfall yet. Tamantha handles his Coughing, then this Houndoom is a problem since its type-neutral feint attacks are hitting for 47 damage. Baking Soda faints after landing 1 Surf, then Canyonero, despite her lower special defense, does survive a feint attack to get off 1 Dig for the win. The real director then thanks us for the rescue with a Rainbow Wing, which we can henceforth use to go catch Ho-Oh at any point. The broadcaster on the 4th floor gives us a second copy of Pink Bow, which I never wanted 2 of, but I could see it coming up on certain teams. Day 11 is just for hitting some bonus content before heading into the endgame. The Ruins of Alph has 3 more block puzzles to solve. One can be done off of Route 32 with Surf, the others have to be done through Union Cave. There are quite a few trainer battles in Union Cave that we're at a perfect level for, and I get some key evolutions from the XP. Knife dings 31 to evolve into Forretress, finally adding one of the new types to our team, Steel. With good defense and bug offense, Knife is a proper psychic killer who would make his forefathers, Spoon and Fork, quite proud. We also ding 30 with Baking Soda to evolve into Feraligatr. I love how late the starter evolutions happen in Gen 2. It kept me excited through the endgame for this to occur. Deep in Union Cave, beat this cool trainer who says she's really excited to witness a special Pokemon visiting the cave once a week. Well, we happen to be here on Friday when Lapras shows up. Kill it. The girl does not react to our war crime, sadly. There's also one random psychic trainer outside for a giraffe-on-giraffe fight and a small little patch of grass home to Smeargle, who enables some stupid behavior with egg moves in later generations. Solve an Ammonite puzzle and a Ho-Oh puzzle to close out the Alph content for Gold Silver. We did not gain anything from it, it's just fun puzzles, but the trainer battles were a nice reason to revisit this stuff. Set east from Mahogany Town towards Blackthorn City. Knife gets to absolutely dumpster this Kadabra, which feels so good after the trauma of Gen 1. Otherwise, this route just has a great mix of trainer archetypes. Gold and Silver did a much better job of diversifying opponent types within an area. On the one hand, this makes combats more engaging. But on a level design level, a little something was lost since areas are no longer on theme. It was kind of nice to expect a chunk of bikers or bird keepers or what have you and arrange your team accordingly. It's just a little less cohesive now. Reach the Icy Path, which is unfortunately hostile to repels since the ice sliding squares count against the duration. But we do find HM07 Waterfall to give Saltine the real water attack that he lacked. You can catch a wild Jinx in this dungeon, which I thought pretty hard about doing. She is certainly well positioned against the coming dragon fights. But on top of being Gen 1, we do have some ice coverage already via Soda and Salt, so I would have built the whole team different. I'd take Typhlosion over Gator, and then we're looking at changing to Silver version to catch Lugia because we won't be getting Ho-Oh. It's a whole thing. If anyone's interested in the logical house of cards it takes to carefully craft a team in this manner, let me know and maybe I can include that aspect in these videos. It's always some situation where changing one Pokemon completely invalidates the whole team because suddenly Cut is missing or something. Once through to Blackthorn City, the Mart sells Max Repel, which is worse than Super Repel in terms of cost per step effective, 2.8 versus 2.5, so don't get scammed since we do need to use so much Repel in this game. And how convenient that we reached here on a Saturday. Santos gives us the spell tag that we're happy to teach to Tamantha to enhance her Shadow Balls. Then, pull Dratini out of daycare. It is time. We put her in there pretty early, after all the walking we did, including getting 3 apricorn balls made, then breeding and hatching a pineco, and making an extra walking trip to Olivine. Dratini is only level 27 by this point, 3 levels shy of Dragonair. I spend 1 rare candy getting her to 28, but there's still some grinding needed, so I enter Clair's gym to tackle these subordinate trainers with XP share on the Dratini. Knife can actually handle an enemy Dratini pretty well, but the flat 40 damage of Dragon Rage is pretty hurtful. Baking Soda contributes with Icy Punch on some of them, and I save Saltine for all the various fake water Pokemon masquerading as dragons in here. The cool thing is, with his high special defense, he takes very little damage from them, even if he does need a couple of turns to win. I clear out everyone besides Clair, which leaves Dratini still at 29 and Knife at 34. That won't do. We've got to grind some more. Come clear Route 46 with me and we'll talk. This route has the strongest trainers in Johto, and the grass here at the end of the game finally contains 2 version-exclusive Pokemon each, Gligar and Teddiursa for gold, Fanpai and Skarmory for silver. We're looking for reasons to prefer one version over the other. Well, Gold's exclusive Pokemon encounter rates are 20% and 10%, whereas Silver's are half that at 10% and 5%, so Gold does get an actual point here. I do manage to ding 30 for Dratini, who evolves into Dragonair as I clear out the trainers. Then pull an Amy Winehouse and go back to Blackthorn, where this woman wants to trade her Rhydon for a female Dragonair. Let's finally deprive ourselves of this XP vampire. Dawn the Rhydon is surely a better ground type than Canionero to run for the endgame, and I do love the narrative of daycaring a Dratini all game just to finally cash it in for Dawn in time for the endgame, except we literally just ran a traded Rhydon in yellow version, not to mention we still would like to run Sudowoodo because it's a Generation 2 Pokemon. There are 2 more NPC trades in Kanto, but let's rank the Johto trades, having just completed the last one for this video. Muscle is excellent. Drowsy is catchable right before it, she's very well positioned to take down Whitney, and she comes with a gold berry, which is quite a nice gift. The only points off are that we're locked out of Machamp, and we did just have a Machoke trade in yellow version. Yellow version also had a Rhydon trade. Dawn is in the middle of the road. It's a powerful species to run, and she can be gotten at a nice illegally low level. But asking for a Dragonair in trade is extreme given the pain those are to raise, and requiring it to be female is annoying at best since there's no gameplay reason to emphasize the gender. And yellow version also just had an Electrode trade, not quite a Voltorb, but how lazy were the developers on the in-game trades for Gold and Silver? Volty trades for a Krabby, which are ubiquitous, and comes before a long water stretch. Shame then that it doesn't have any electric moves. And Rocky is just a plain mistake. We're locked out of Steelix, he's crap for the first gym since Pidgeotto has Mud Slap, and he's gonna blast through the obedience gap way before you beat Bugsy. Whoever put this in the game missed their cup of coffee that day. Okay, but also Clair. Her Kingdra is a huge problem. The new Seadra evolution is the only non-Dragonite dragon available, and as a dragon water type, it's no longer weak to ice, only dragon moves, so that's our puzzle to solve. It knows Surf, Hyper Beam, and Dragon Breath, so no Pokemon is safe on defense. Can we at least punish it offensively? Well, there's 4 Dragon-type moves in the whole game. Dragon Rage does not count because it just does a flat 40 damage. Dragon Breath has 60 base power and good odds to paralyze, but it only comes from a TM that we win from Clair, so that's out. Outrage is an excellent damaging move, but we'd have to raise a Dratini to level 50 for that, which is well into Kanto range, so no. One move remains, Twister, with a sad 40 base power. Gyarados and Dratini can learn Twister, but neither has a strong special attack, so they'd get demolished in the 6 hits that it takes them to win. But you can breed Twister onto a Mantine. With its okay defenses and okay special attack, a Twister-bred Mantine is the only true Kingslayer in the game. And I'm not saying it's good, so there you go, a massively over-engineered solution to a single Pokemon, and a very, very poor reason to prefer Gold version. But I have a more realistic Kingslayer in mind, one who's already on the team. Knife learns Explosion at level 39. That's right, we're planning a Gunpowder Treason and plot. Especially with a pink Bowheld, Explosion should be enough to one-shot Kingdra no matter what move he leads with. So, I grinded Knife to level 39 in the Ice Cave, where she takes very little damage and has moves strong against both bats and jinxes, and it gave me a reason to actually use elixirs for once. Then to fight Clair. It's not like her earlier Pokemon are pushovers. Salt gets through one Dragonair using Icy Wind. I swear Paralysis RNG is tilted to favor the opponent because her Dragonair ruins Canyon Arrow and Tamantha both, who on paper could have won individually and definitely should have won together. So I don't feel bad blowing a big heal on Baking Soda mid-fight to allow him to beat the third Dragonair after he finished the second one off for us. Then, I pulled something sneaky against Kingdra. By leaving in Baking Soda, my goal was to force Hyper Beam so that I could hit him while he recharges. He used Dragon Breath though, which Knife resists quite well, then Knife luckily tanks one Surf before exploding to take down the king like a stampede of wildebeests. And thanks to my Pokemon switching, we even retained full XP on Baking Soda. Claire gets all indignant about us not being a real trainer after the fight, but if she understood the long game, big brain mastery it took to cook up this plan of an assassin Fortress ever since we caught a level 18 Kakuna in the bug contest, she would be praising our skill. This is the final day that we care about what day it is. Fly to Goldenrod and get Tamantha a haircut this time. We want her looking nice. On the 5th floor of the department store, on Sundays, this woman gives you TM27 Return if your first Pokemon likes you enough. This is a powerful normal type move that I taught to Tamantha, who gains the same type bonus thanks to her normal half. I don't know if Tamantha's friendship is maxed, but it's certainly high because she can already one-shot many neutral matchups using Return. Now enter the Dragon Cave to prove ourselves to Claire. I don't know how this proves anything, we just surf a few tiles, use a Whirlpool, and collect a MacGuffin. I will note, we could Super Rod fish a straight Dragonair in here, but the Super Rod is not available until Kanto. Plus, that's a lot less fun than completing the Dawn trade through the Game Corner and Daycare, no? We are finally given the 8th badge, and Professor Elm calls us, not in a tizzy for once, asking us to visit. We already cleared out Route 46, so just fly home and collect a Master Ball from Elm. And while I'm here, I took my money back from Mom and decorated my room a little. Perfect. Now, what do you say about using that Master Ball immediately? Head to Tin Tower in Ekrutik. This is mostly just a stash of endgame loot. I bounced around looking for stairs up and fighting off Rattatas. Get to the top of this Canehurst Logarius-looking rooftop and encounter Ho-Oh, the box art legendary Pokemon for gold. Each version gets each bird eventually, but it varies which one they can catch now at level 40 versus later at 70. And the birds know different moves based on when you fight them. Lugia is deprived of Aeroblast, a strong flying move if you don't catch it at level 40, replaced with Hydro Pump, which stinks because there's plenty of good water moves. Ho-Oh loses Sacred Fire, but it still retains Fire Blast at 70 instead of becoming useless. So Silver version scores a point here because Lugia is a lot stronger relatively at its level 40 encounter. However, we use our Master Ball to welcome Lone Star to the team, who not only replaces Calamite, but takes on the Flash role we lost when we lost Hee-Hee. Call me lost, cause we got Flash back. That's right, the legendary bird is also an HM whore. Nobody is safe in Gold Silver. With Flash again on the team, head into the Dark Cave entrance off Route 46 for Dark Glasses, the Dark Move boost item. And now we have all the held items but 3. Steel's Metal Coat comes in Kanto. Bug's Silver Powder has a 1 in 64 chance to be held by a wild Butterfree that you have to steal with the Thief move. And Twisted Spoon for Psychic, you have to trade a Kadabra from Yellow version and it will be holding Twisted Spoon. Of course, Generation 1 Kadabras still found a way to haunt us. Now head into Mount Mortar and don't be like me, have an empty slot on your team. I got confused because Lapras in Generation 1 did not need a free slot to be gifted. This dungeon is long and you will constantly need to reapply repels. It's like 2,000 paces if you're doing any amount of exploring and looting. We need Flash, Surf, Waterfall, and Strength to make it through this grueling cave to find and fight Black Belt Kiyo, who is the fighting dojo master from Gen 1. Fight his Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan, and he gifts you a Tyrogue for winning. I briefly considered running Hitmontop since fighting does have some merit against the Elite Four, but I just couldn't endorse another grind after that time we put in making Dragonair and Knife happen. Anyway, it's time to start the path to the end. Clear your inventory, and I also did my vitamin shopping for the team now. I had even less cash than in Red Blue, which is not surprising considering the shorter game, so I just focused on proteins and calciums. Head east of New Barktown through the Tojo Falls, dumb name, which contain a Moonstone. I kind of don't like this here. The other evolutionary stones are all, like Bruno Madrigal, in Kanto, but they do give us 2 Moonstones in Johto. Routes 27 and 26, like Victory Road from Gen 1, are full of a diverse gauntlet of enemy trainers. Cool trainers have internal diversity, but we also see all the different archetypes represented. Psychics, bird keepers, fishermen. A few of these trainers offer their phone numbers. They're really annoying to reach here, but they have some of the best cash prizes in the game if you want to swap numbers for a rematch. Then, as we head up to Victory Road, let's give the team a performance check-in. Aside from Knife and Lone Star, everyone is in their low 30s level-wise, approaching mid. Canyonero has been tough to keep alive, even in strong matchups, because, for example, a neutral Thundershock from a Magnemite hurts a lot before I can pull off a dig. Tamantha was very strong, but has dropped off, because Confusion just is not cutting it at higher levels. She'll gain Psybeam at level 41, but without grinding, that's just not happening before the Elite Four. Saltine began life as a throwaway reason to use a Heavy Ball, evolved into usefulness as an HM whore, then actually became useful when I realized we could get him Grass and Ice-type coverage. He's been weirdly overperforming so far because expectations began low. Baking Soda has been a solid 7 out of 10 the whole game. Growth is steady, and there's regular need for water and ice moves, but he just doesn't stand out. His biggest strength has always been, since none of his defenses are lacking, that he's reliable in a lot of neutral matchups. Knife has not had a ton of battle testing since I had to boost her way past team level for that Kingdra, but Pin Missile does handle Psychic and Dark types easily the few times that I tested her. And Lone Star is completely untested, but we can assume that the 95 base power Sacred Fire will do its job when we call on her. I'll remind us how seriously disadvantaged Fire type was the whole time in Gen 1. Gold and Silver don't have many more needs for Fire through the bulk of the game, but there's actually some demand for Fire in the Elite Four, so Ho-Oh is a much more agreeable team member than Moltres ever was. Victory Road is not a full dungeon in Gold and Silver, just a bit of loot and a rival fight, but I love how they kept the same layout from Gen 1 in the places where it's not collapsed. The big loot here is the Earthquake TM, which the developers, appropriately, did not hand us halfway through the game like in Gen 1, considering its power level. That replaces Dig on Canyonero, breathing some new life since she had been falling behind. The final rival fight for this video occurs as we exit Victory Road to the north. Algo is here to show off his best 6, starting with a Sneasel who takes 4x damage from fighting, so you know we send Canyonero to one-shot with a low kick. Meganium is second, whom Knife absolutely stonewalls and pin missiles down, even through Reflect. And for tech, Blue protects twice to help burn turns off of Reflect too. Third, he has a sad Golbat since he has not discovered the power of Friend Balls. It's no issue for Canyonero to Rock Slide down. And Magneton also goes to Canyonero. I'm reminded why I felt a Sudowoodo was indispensable. It's got a lot of utility here at the end of the game. I gave her Haunter too to Earthquake down. And his new 6th Pokemon is a Kadabra, which I'm a little annoyed to see reused from the Gen 1 rival. It reinforces that the developers know that he's broken, but this time they at least give us tools to handle it, and Tamantha embarrasses him with a Shadow Ball. Very suddenly, we are at the Elite Four. Our levels are a fair bit below the Elite Four, which they also were in my Gen 1 videos, except that level differences are magnified at lower levels. Being level 35 fighting 45s is worse than being level 45 fighting 55s because of proportions. And with much more devious type coverage from the opponents, there's less opportunity to safely counter with strategy. Raw stats, i.e. levels, carry more importance in Gold Silver, which is another reason I feel they may have wanted us to fight more wild Pokemon in this gen. Psychic Trainer Will is first, and he leads with Zaytu. Tamantha defends his Psychic moves, theoretically forcing him to Quick Attack, but he just blasts with Psychic anyway. His Jinx is next, and we carry forward the Iron Tail strat from Pryce's gym. Though Baking Soda takes a ton of damage from a neutral Psychic, Jinx really is a good Pokemon. Exeggutor goes to Knife, not only for 4x Pin Missile, but because she resists Psychics. Because Exeggutor has a sliver of health remaining, I end things on a Rollout, which is awesome because he sends a Zaytu next, and my second turn of Rollout takes a huge chunk. From there, I send in Saltine to Icy Wind it down over a couple turns thanks to Will healing up. Will saved his Slowbro for last. Saltine takes a Bite Out with Grass Power before I have to send in Tamantha to Shadow Ball and claim our first Elite Four victory. Then crack out the Medicine. Thanks to the tougher battles, we'll have a lot more restoration to do between battles this time. Freshwaters still do most of the work, but we needed several revives this run, and full heals will not go unused. Koga has been promoted to the Elite Four, having slain Lorelei and taken her job. He leads with an Ariados, which is our first test drive for Lone Star. I think she'll be doing just fine. Second, he sends out Muck. Ground and Poison are both super effective, but Muck's special defense is way higher than his defense, so I send Canyonero to Earthquake him while resisting Sludge Bombs. That goes well, but I do get stuck poisoned. Third is Koga's own Forretress, which resists most types, but takes 4x damage from Fire. This thing will explode on you if you don't one-shot it, so we're basically required to bring fire here unless you have a ghost. Lone Star executes the one-shot admirably. Fourth, Koga has a Crobat who is hard countered by a rock type. I risk sending the wounded, poisoned Canyonero and do get there, even though a miss makes it take 3 turns. And last, Lichen Yellow, is Koga's loyal Venomoth. Samantha is a hard counter, though Confusion is still pitiful and takes a couple uses to win. We had a lot more clean matchups here, so this fight actually does not need much healing afterward, mostly just getting Canyonero unscrewed from that poison. Let's talk about Bruno, who got a massive difficulty bump over Gen 1. He starts with a digging Hitmontop, so I pulled something dirty myself. I lead with Canyonero to bait the dig, as I hit him with Earthquake, which still affects enemies who are underground. Turn 2, I swapped to Saltine, nullifying the dig, and neutral attacked him down with Waterfall. He sent Hitmonchan next, who has crazy type coverage. His scary move is Mach Punch, so I left in Saltine hoping my good special defense against Hitmonchan's low special attack could resist Thunder Punches, forgetting that I had a 4x weakness. But Lone Star with Fly was enough to handle the remainder and perhaps should have gone in originally. He then puts in Onyx to threaten the Rock Slide, but Baking Soda wins with an easy Surf. Against Hitmonlee, I sent Tamantha, where Confusion concerningly doesn't even crack halfway. But instead of punishing me, he goes for Swagger to confuse me and massively raise my attack stat. Well, Tamantha can actually capitalize on that with a nasty return for lethal. I'm glad that move found use here in the Elite Four. Bruno's ringer is Machamp, who is a serious problem thanks to Cross Chop, and they gave him a Rock Slide too if you attempt to counter with a Flyer. So anyway, I countered with a Flyer, Lone Star, who got him low with a Fly, but Rock Slide 4x's me to one-shot me. Then he rudely heals away my progress as Tamantha does her best with weak confusions. A third use would get me there, but a neutral Cross Chop one-shots me. That move is a mistake. All that's left is Baking Soda to come in neutrally and Surf to win this bloody battle. What my team lacked that could have made Bruno less messy is a Pokemon with high defense who resists fighting, such as Exeggutor or Weezing. The fourth trainer of the Elite Four is Karen, the Dark-type user, and I don't love how she uses a whole team of Pokemon we could not possibly have acquired by now, save Umbreon. It's like, yeah girl, I would have a Houndoom too if it was permitted. Knife should be a wall to Umbreon, but he actually almost gets me through a combination of Confusion, Sand Attack, and repeated Feint Attacks before I can Pin Missile him down. Karen launches right into her terrifying champion Houndoom after this to try and 4x me. This thing is a problem on paper. What you really want is a fighting type to resist Crunch and who can still tank flamethrowers. I just sent Canyonero, who somehow acted first, landing a massive Rock Slide and even scoring a flinch. Then I pivoted to Earthquake for accuracy, but she healed up. That left me taking one massive Crunch, mercifully without a flinch on my end as I Earthquaked a second time to win. Canyonero leveled up for this and wanted to learn Feint Attack, which I thought was appropriate. Third, Karen sends out her Vileplume, not a dark type, but on theme, kind of, which Lone Star fires in 1. Fourth is her Gengar, also on theme, but not a dark type. This thing is scary on paper too. It's very fast and knows Destiny Bond, which could take out anyone with it. But she curses on turn 1, which that plus a Shadow Ball from Tamantha handles it safely. Her underwhelming finale is Murkrow because she blew her Houndoom already. Saltine's high special defense keeps him alive, while a couple of icy winds claim a drama-free win, ending Karen without a single fainted Pokemon. Then of course there's a fifth member of the Elite Four again, this crusty old Dragon Master they keep in the back room to cheat league goers out of their prize. As a result of the stricter HM needs on the party in Gold Silver and the tougher late game gym battles, i.e. Clair, there's a lot less freedom in Gold and Silver to tailor a team toward beating the Elite Four. I did my best to add ice coverage on the team for Lance, but we're mostly just sending what we have here rather than bringing intentional Dragonite killers. I began the fight with a trick. Saltine to bait Hyper Beam rather than Surf from his Gyarados, switching in Canyonero to tank the beam and respond with Rocks. After his turn recharging, I just repeated the combo to score a pretty free first KO. Then for some bizarre reason, he follows up with Charizard, who is fully resisted and countered by Canyonero. Luckily, I survived a flamethrower at 2 hit points. Maybe he was banking on this getting me, and I was able to 4x Rock Slide to counter and beat him in 1 move, but Canyonero was in rough shape. After that, he sends out Dragonites, who are tough to plan for. Each one knows one of Blizzard, Thunder, or Fire Blast, and the former two have the same level, so they cannot be distinguished. Baking Soda does manage to handle his Blizzard Dragon okay. Then his Thunder Dragonite is a massive issue for the run. It's only truly manageable by a fast, non-water ice type, i.e. Jinx, or potentially Piloswine who resists it because he's half ground. My ice users cannot one-shot him, and they both lose bad to Thunder, being water types, so I actually have to trot out a cheeky Knife explosion again. I kinda feel bad that Knife's purpose is just to veto bullshit dragons, but she is real good at doing that at least. Then I'm sad Knife is not around to roll out his Aerodactyl since she defends his moves fully. Instead, I use a shameful battle heal on Canyonero who then trades rocks with Aerodactyl. Then for his final level 50 Dragonite with Fire Blast, it's back to shenanigans. I had actually taught the Dragon Breath TM that was Clair's reward to Lone Star, who does decent super effective damage to Dragonite and gets it paralyzed. Shame then how he overcomes confusion in one turn and dodges paralysis to Hyper Beam me down in one. Then Canyonero freaking misses Rock Slide while he uses a full restore. That's such a long string of bad RNG, I feel zero remorse max reviving Lone Star to come do more Dragon Breath, though it's ultimately Saltine who sneaks in the winning hit to claim victory and wrap up the main game of Pokemon Gold. Before we celebrate though, there's one more thing I want to cover in Johto, so fast forward just a little bit. After credits roll, I remembered that we have that kid's Shuckle in our PC, so fly to Cyanwood, withdraw Shucky, and return it to that bullied kid. He just says thank you and goes on with his life. Super glad we did that. Okay, roll the ending sequence. Foremost, breeding is a fun mechanic that they added to Pokemon in Gen 2. It's very fun and interesting, and they supported it well right out of the gate, with baby Pokemon and egg moves giving you reasons to interact with the system. Let me know if you found more compelling egg moves than I did. I didn't see many realistic helpful options besides Pin Missile on Pineco or Karate Chop on Magby. Timed events were a pretty strong addition. My parents were strict with my video game time growing up, and I remember having to ask special permission to play my Game Boy at night so that I could catch a Murkrow. That was a good memory. I think Game Freak added just enough time-gated events. The weekday siblings, bug contest, Lapras, and return TM women were all optional but rewarding, and importantly, fair. The timed event I dislike is that the radio only plays the Pokemon Lullaby 3 days a week. It's completely lame for the game to be more or less annoying with wild encounters based on the day of week you're playing. Then there were some new mechanics that fell flat. Sending money to Mom is slightly pointless unless you really want an early Wigglytuff. I just think Mom's savings was a bad way to make another bad mechanic more relevant, the cell phone. I do think it's a cool idea that you can trade numbers with trainers. Them letting you know about swarm encounters especially was a neat add. But with a full contact list, calls definitely come too often, and most have nothing of value to say to you. Some especially poisonous contacts like Picnicker Liz call constantly to say nothing. Maybe if rematches were just easier to physically get to, I would have appreciated keeping a relationship with trainers throughout the game, but I just don't think there was quite enough payoff for the cell phone mechanic in this game. In-game trades, which were a very fun aspect of my red, blue, and yellow runs, were terrible in Gold Silver. It's as though they viewed it as an old mechanic they didn't want to keep supporting, so they threw in some poorly planned trades just to tick the box. Except for Muscle the Machop, none of the trades felt strategically helpful. And if they're not helpful, the reason to do them would just be to collect cool Pokemon, except they were just run-of-the-mill Gen 1 rehashes. The game corner, though it feels like I'm the only one who would care, was extremely disappointing, with again no new Pokemon offered as prizes. There wasn't even anything strategically interesting to the run. Since the Pokemon stink, its only real purpose is to let you convert 110k cash into a Thunder TM so that you can raise a Voltorb if you want to. But what about the core gameplay loop compared to Gen 1, the battles? Well, they did make the type chart more balanced overall. Adding Dark to prey on Psychic, and for Bug to have another Strength against, was a good move. Steel was an interesting add defensively, making it so that Dragon type is not the only real puzzle to solve against. But even though the Psychic Boogeyman was defeated, there's just actually no counter for a Kingdra, and the only good counter for a Houndoom is just another Houndoom, which you can't get into the postgame. Or maybe Poliwrath, also in the postgame. As for the availability of the new types, I do think that Magnemite, Forretress, and a 5% encounter rate Silver exclusive Skarmory who comes on Route 46 was not enough Steel support, and literally only Umbreon as Dark support is pitiful. Sure, Dark opens up more in Kanto, but by then any changes you make to your team are just done for the hell of it, not because you need them strategically, and that takes away the fun. Held items did add interesting depth to the combat, though I would have liked to see a little bit more from the opponents beyond a handful of trainers having berries. Then, I said this previously, but trainers are overall a lot more diverse in type. And while this is a nice change for making each battle individually more engaging, I kind of missed how in Generation 1, you would know that there's a big chunk of trainers of a certain type coming up, because tunnels would have mostly hikers or whatever, and you could plan your team around that. Generation 2 did lose some of the magic of planning your team strategically in favor of just running strong Pokemon and hoping things will work out. A strategy which is then harmed by the extreme HM burden in this generation. Flash, Cut, Strength, Surf, Fly, Whirlpool, and Waterfall are all supposed to fit into your team, plus perhaps Rock Smash. I'm omitting Headbutt and Dig since those don't get any navigation. That's 8 move slots occupied on your party, with only Surf, Fly, and Strength being ones that you really want to run in combat. HMs run wild in Gen 2 and stay that way for a few generations. There's not much else to say other than I regret the restrictions it places on party building. The team felt less strong overall in Gold version than it did in Blue or Yellow, and a definite part of that was trying to integrate the HMs on my team. So what about what's better, Pokemon Gold or Silver? Of course I landed on Gold because that's the footage I've been using for the run. Gold wins in a lot of comparisons, though most of those points are minor. Ekans vs Sandshrew as Game Corner prizes is too disappointing to tip the scales in either direction. Then Silver gets Delibird as an exclusive, which is a complete waste, but it also gets Skarmory, which is one of the most usable steel types, not to mention a fine flyer in a sea of bad flyers. And yet, in Gold's favor, Mantine is a relatively powerful water HM user if you want to run it in Gold. Spinarak has a big edge over Ledyba between the early game bugs. Teddiursa is a powerful normal type who comes too late to bother with, stay tuned for Crystal by the way, and in a game with few fire types and bad flying options, Ho-Oh does solve a lot of problems. Then there's the fact that the 2 Gold exclusive Pokemon on Route 46 are twice as common as the Silver exclusives on the same route. There was no reason to give Silver the middle finger like that. Overall, yes, I love this game. It added so much good, but it got a fair bit messier in terms of direction. There's not enough love shown to the new batch of Pokemon or the new types, trainer battles feel randomly placed, and there isn't that nice flow of long routes and dungeons like Gen 1 had. To make a wild accusation in terms of corporate project management, it feels like Game Freak's team grew a lot after Red Blue and they were able to dedicate more skilled teams to individual aspects of the game, but that there wasn't enough control from the directorship to make sure that it worked well together. Silver has long been my favorite Pokemon game since it's the one I grew up with, but looking more objectively now, I do think that Red and Blue have been the most cohesive games so far. That was a lot of words. I'm glad you listened to them. Thank you so much to my patrons for helping make this channel possible. If you would like to support the channel, I would love your support on Patreon, but even a like or comment on this video does so much to help. I'm also live on Twitch on Sunday evenings if you'd like to come hang out between uploads. There's obviously a lot more Pokemon where this came from. I would love to check how Crystal iterates on Gold and Silver, as well as take a critical eye to the post-game of Gold Silver to see if it's really the afterthought that people say it is. Subscribe if you would like to see those new videos when they come out. I would certainly be happy to have you there. That's about it, and a new record-long video, so that's cool. Anyway, see you later, alligator.